In this presentation, we will pay payroll taxes after running payroll for the month of September, the second month of payroll in our payroll problem. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info. Here we are in the home page. We've got the open windows open. To open the open windows, go to the view drop down and the open windows list. We're then going to open up our reports, our balance sheet, by going to the reports drop down, company and financial, and scrolling on down to the balance sheet standard report. We're then going to customize the report date range, those being to 01/01/21 to 12/31/21, January 1st to December 31st, 2021. Going to change the font size just a bit so we can see it to the fonts over here. Font size, let's make it 11. See if that helps out at all. So we'll say okay. Bit larger font. These are the liabilities we need to now pay. We're going to be paying just the tax related items, so mainly to the federal taxes, to the treasurer, to the government, to the IRS, which is always a pleasant activity. So we could just write a check, of course, but we will be using the QuickBooks payroll liability paying process by going to the home tab over here. This, by the way, is the way I typically do this. You can also do this by going to the employees up top and go to payroll liabilities and taxes and pay the liabilities there as well. But I typically go down to the employee tab and say, this is what I'm doing. I paid the employees, now I'm going to pay the taxes at some point after we've paid the employees. So we've processed the payroll. Now remember that this is the date of the check, and usually we only need one date because we're paying the liabilities on one payroll process that happened. So the payroll ended at the end of September. We actually paid it on 10/01/21 is according to our book problem here. So we paid it on 10/1/21 for the month end of September payroll. Remember to keep in mind, are we using a weekly, a monthly, a bi-weekly, or so on and so forth to get the pay period right. And note that the check date will differ typically than the pay period date. So this is the check date. Okay. And now we're just going to select what we have here. It's not going to print it. It's going to come out of our checking account. We are going to review the checks, and we want to make the date of the payment on 10/15/21. So let's review that. The end of the pay period was on September. We processed the payroll on October 1st. Now we're going to pay the liabilities that we took from the employees and the liabilities for our employer portion on October 15th. We're only going to be paying the federal taxes and the state SUTA. So we're not going to be paying the 401k right now. The unemployment for the state, we're going to pay that one. And then we're not going to pay the union dues yet. We're going to go to the federal unemployment, the federal withholding, the Medicare for the employer and employee, and the Social Security for the employer and employee. That should be everything. That's at 16,348.26. So double check that number. That should be our check number here, 16,348.26. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and create that check. Dates look good. Dates look good. Everything is okay. Everything is good. All right, so we're going to create the check then. Here is the check that it created to the EDD, the Employee Development Department. That's the one that went to the state. And so it's been entered now. I like to check the checks by going to the bank accounts. So let's go to the banking, use register, checking account. And then we'll see that we have the EDD and the Treasury here, those two payments, and their liability checks. So notice everything we've done here is a check. But they give us this nice little thing which will show up on our reports, this nice little name of the check being independent by the process that we are using in order to make it a bit easier to navigate through. So if we go back to our balance sheet then, and we refresh, then we should see all the liabilities disappear other than the ones for the benefits, the insurance, the retirement, and the union dues payable. If we go into our checking account and double click on the checking account, we'll see these activities there as well. If we customize and go to fonts, and if we make it a little bit larger, 11 again, we're going to say that we say these two checks now at the bottom for the EDD and the United States Treasury are the ones that we had here. If we double click on those, we will then see the check. Note that we have a lot of detail here in this check. So, but the check amount is for the 802 in this case, closing this back out. We also note that these are all checks, remember, but it's giving us that same kind of name over here in the type field. So it gives us more detail, and that's really nice because we can say, if it just says check, we know that we just wrote a check. If it says paycheck, we know that we went through the paycheck process to do that. If it says it's a liability check, then it probably went through some type of process, payroll in this case, for the liability check. So that's nice to have that differentiates that for us. So we're going to close that back out. Now these items were not paid. If we want to see what was paid, we could go to the trial balance to look at that detail. Reports drop down, and we could go down to the company. We're going to go down to accounting and taxes. Trial balance. Let's make this for 010121 to 123121. All right, that's going to give our information here. And notice we've got a lot of zeros now because all the stuff that we paid has now been paid out. It's nice, however, that we can go in here and we can double click on the activity and see what is going on with it. So for example, the FIT, we can double click on it and we can try to weed out what happened here. Now again, it's going to be in order by the activity that happened. So we can see that we had the first payroll, and then we had the second payroll, and then it got paid down basically in the middle. So we had the first payroll, and we paid it down to 0, and then we had the second payroll reprocessed, and here's the paycheck that we just paid to pay it back down. So if we double click this item here, that's going to bring us to our paycheck. This is the amount that we're looking for in that item. So if we close this back out, if we can do that for each of these, if I go into here, the paycheck is down here, we have 2 of them. If we go into them, it's the same check, and it's representing these 2 items being reported to this account. So it's a little bit difficult to kind of weed that out, but if you go back and forth between these items, you can see what it is that QuickBooks is doing here to tie this out for us. If we then go to the profit and loss statement, we go to reports, we go to company and financial, the profit and loss. We're going to go 010121 to 123121. And we're going to change the fonts once again. I'll bring this up to 11. Okay. And so there's the 106. That's for the year now. So that ties in if we were to look at our Excel sheet for the year. Remember, that didn't change. That's the 106.91. It didn't change from the liability that we paid, the liability being a reduction to cash and a recording of the other side, reducing all the liability accounts. So here's the same 106.91. Only activity we have in the income statement, that including both the employer portion and the employee portion. Notice that payroll taxes is included in there still, but on the expense side, we're only seeing the employer portion, which should kind of be broken out, but it's included in here, and then the gross check in the profit and loss statement. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info.